Holy fuck! Ricky, that's why I fucking do this shit. Hell yes, dude. That was a fucking baller of a story. Thank you for breaking that on this podcast. First time telling that publicly. Holy fuck. You must have been shitting yourself.
Hello and welcome to Two Beers Till Takeoff, the podcast inspired by conversations overheard at the airport bar. Join Phil as he grabs a couple of beers and chats with interesting people from around the world, sharing expert knowledge and hilarious stories that you won't find in your guidebook. So pull up a stool and get ready for an adventure as we explore worlds of travel and beyond with Two Beers Till Takeoff.
4 hours in a Taliban headquarters.
I had dog meat in Laos.
Was it a golden retriever?
Smack a dirty old smooch on our beautiful fish right here.
He didn't die, but he fell down the side of the bathtub.
Hello and welcome to Two Beers Till Takeoff. My name is Phil, and today's guest is an American YouTuber and polyglot. He's been in nearly 100 countries, including ones like Yemen, Guyana, and Uganda. Welcome to the show, Ricky Seaman.
Thank you, Phil. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
What's going on, dude?
Yeah, not much. Just trying to travel and make videos and trying to live the dream. So
nice, dude. I have to be honest with you. When I first saw polyglot in your videos, I was like, "Is that like the one where they have multiple wives?"
yeah, polyamorous, polygamy, all that.
Yeah, no, it was a quick Google and yeah. So polyglot, for those who don't know, is a person who knows a ton of languages, which is super interesting. I don't think we've ever had somebody on that's been a polyglot. So before we kind of get into your travel and talk about a bunch of stuff, including a story that's never been told publicly, which I'm looking really forward to, can you tell us a little bit how you became a polyglot?
Yeah, for sure. I like to think of language as it's kind of an extension of travel, right? I think it's easy to buy a plane ticket and to go somewhere and, you connect with the culture, but, you take back memories, but it's also possible to kind of continue and simulate that. And that's kind of what language is for me, is the connection to other cultures and people. It's been a really, it's been a journey, that's what language learning is. But really, I grew up in Orlando, Florida. And I grew up playing soccer with, a lot of Puerto Ricans, Brazilians, Jamaicans, a lot of people of other different cultures, language influence. And actually, my second language was Pig Latin. Phil, I don't know if you ever heard people speak.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah, so ridiculous or not, it was kind of a way to train my brain to think in a different code. So, from growing up, I had that influence. And then it wasn't until I was about maybe 21, like my sophomore year of college, when I randomly stumbled across a YouTube video of a guy named Stu J. Raj, and he was speaking like 16 languages, most of them like East Asian languages, and it was just nuts. It blew my mind. And I'd taken Spanish in high school, and I failed miserably. My mom speaks Spanish and tried to teach me, and when you're forced to learn language, we learn language like we learn chemistry and biology, and it's like learning to ride a bike, not learning you're acquiring the skill, right? You're not learning the subject. So I could never do it until I saw this video. And when I saw this video, I was like, damn, that is the coolest thing that I have ever seen. And so I was like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna learn a whole bunch of languages. And so from that point on, I started to study and figure out, what were the best methods for learning. And that's kind of where my journey started with language. I started, studying Spanish. I moved to Buenos Aires. I lived in Argentina. I learned Spanish there. At the same time, I started studying Portuguese and French on my own with tutors. I lived in Lebanon. I studied Arabic at the Lebanese American University in Beirut.
Oh, shit.
I also studied that in school as well. And since then, I've studied Farsi, Russian, Korean, Mandarin, and I'm just a huge ass nerd when it comes to languages. So that's kind of
holy shit, dude. So how many total do you speak?
I get this question a lot, and it's from with varying levels of proficiency. I would say between 5 and 7. It really kind of if it's a good day, maybe 7. I can carry on conversations in at least 5 or 6, and then be able to get by in about 7.
Hey, you, come here. I got a secret for you. This episode is sponsored by No Days Wasted, a leader in the hangover supplement. This episode is sponsored by No Days Wasted, a leader in the This episode is sponsored by No Days Wasted, a leader in the hangover supplement industry. Listeners can now get 15% off their next purchase by using promo code 2beers in all caps at checkout. Yeah.
I mean, we were just speaking in French earlier, and I was like, this guy speaks French. Like, I was testing you a little bit just to see if it was true, and you passed with flying colors. I was like, wow, you might even get it better than I am.
Yeah, I for French is I would say my fourth language. But it's great. I didn't know you spoke French. I knew you were Canadian, but I didn't realize that you were a francophone. So yeah, I love the language.
Like for you, when you listen to a language, can you pick up on accents? Like, you know what I mean? Obviously in English you can hear it because it's your native tongue. But like if you would go from like say Buenos Aires to like maybe Mexico or Spain, can you really catch that accent?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's different when it comes to newer languages for me, like Farsi.
Right.
When I was in Afghanistan, hearing Dari being spoken, then hearing Tajik being spoken, it's doesn't stand out as much as if I'm hearing Arabic or if I'm hearing Spanish or Portuguese. The contrast is much more apparent for me. So.
Can you languages? I think, especially for you being later in life to learn languages, because they say I think it's 0 to 5 is when you can learn a language and then not have an accent, right?
Yeah, it's something to native level, yeah, something like that.
Native level, but like for you, deciding to go and learn all these languages at 21, like how do you even do that? Like what happens in your brain to be able to, leave the system of English or Spanish or Pig Latin and kind of adopt those like much more complex languages?
Yeah, you're really training your brain. I've heard something like, if you're a musician or a mathematician, you use your brain in a similar way as you do when you're studying linguistics or acquiring a language. And so for me, it was really just really retraining my brain. And it's funny when I think about when I speak Spanish, Buenos Aires Spanish versus São Paulo Portuguese versus Lebanese Arabic, I feel different. I feel like a different person. My personality is just a little different. Sometimes it's so subtle, sometimes it's a little more dramatic. But I feel like a different person because I've had to train my brain to learn how porteños in Buenos Aires, how they speak Spanish. They speak a little more with their hands than they do some of the other countries. They're a little more dramatic, or in Lebanon as well, like Lebanese in Syrian Arabic, it's a little more drawn out. Shu tehki, stuff like that. So it's kind of reprogramming your brain, I guess.
That's wild, man. I've seen, obviously you've seen your videos and you talk, but I think there's a guy also on like social media. I've seen his name's like Zhao something NYC. Have you seen this guy where he takes like these abandoned languages and Cree, and it's pretty wild.
I've seen his name Shama. Yeah, Shama NYC. He's pretty famous in the polyglot community. I've seen his videos in Mandarin, and he's legit for sure. Some of his other languages, I don't know. I'm not calling him out, but he does like kind of like the shock videos, like it's like white dude shocks Nigerians, speaking Hausa, or I don't know how legit it is, but some of his other languages are pretty legit.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I just speak 2 languages, but I think sometimes when they're in the same family, it's easy to kind of adopt. Like, for example, when we went to South America, like we were just talking before, we're wearing South American football shirts here, but just going to like Spanish countries like Colombia and Peru, and we're like, I didn't realize how limited English would be there. And, just having to adopt. And after a week or 2, you start catching some French words like, treinta, playa, plage. Yeah. And so that was super helpful. So for you, do you kind of get those same similarities within other languages that you're able to be like, okay, Portuguese is somewhat similar to Spanish or French, so I can it's in the same family, Italian, right? The Latin languages.
Yeah, for sure. All the Romance languages, French, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, even Romanian. I haven't studied Romanian, but it's same language class. and I can understand a lot of it. Even like Farsi and Arabic, there's a lot of words that are similar. Farsi is an Indo-European language, and Arabic is not, but there's still that crossover there. So it helps. Like that's why I was able to learn Portuguese like that, because my second language was Spanish, and now my second language is Portuguese. So it makes it a whole lot easier. Sure.
I assume so. I want to take let's change lanes here. Something recently happened. It was actually a past guest that was on recently, and it's made, I guess, international news. And I think you follow him as well, so that's why I wanted to bring it up. I don't know if people have heard, but Chris Must List, who's a Canadian vlogger, YouTuber, has been arrested in Trinidad Tobago. It's funny because when he was on this episode, or when he was on this show, in his episode, I asked him, like, just out of the blue, because I kind of got the vibe that he'd been to jail. So I was like, Chris, did you go to jail? And he's like, oh yeah, a bunch of times. And he was telling me about a time where he went to jail in Cuba. And it was funny. I was listening to a video of him talk about it, and he was saying that his time in Trinidad Tobago was a lot worse than Cuba in jail. Mm-hmm. So for you, when you hear something like that, is that something that it's a bit of a wake up call as a vlogger person that's looking for maybe some dangerous content?
Yeah, so I guess technically I have not been to jail. I have been arrested, which I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I've been detained multiple times. From Transnistria, I was detained at the border crossing of Mauritania and Senegal. Detained in Lebanon. I've been detained in a lot of different countries. But it's definitely, you have to be aware of the risks, right? Especially you're walking around with a big ass camera. I'm walking around with a DSLR with a shotgun mic and a big gorilla pod. Of course, that attention is going to be there. Of course, when you're in other countries, police, military, there's obvious things. But I think in Chris's case, it's interesting because it's a sedition charge, right?
Exactly.
There's that fine line, and my background is in journalism, and so there's that fine line between, are you a journalist or are you a YouTuber? I've experienced.
Is there a difference anymore?
Not really, right? It's this huge gray area, and so I think in Chris's case, it's interesting because he's there on sedition charges, but he's just filming from what I had seen, and what I seen in his stories in his videos. He was just filming with gangs, right? Didn't seem to be glorifying any of that. In fact, the opposite from what I saw. But it's something to be cognizant of. You have to be cognizant of wherever you're traveling, some of the certain laws. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any particular stories like that, but I know there have been stories where there are like niche kind of local laws that I broke accidentally, because you're just not even thinking of those types of things. So shout out to Christmas List. Before this, Phil, you passed over a podcast to listen to, to kind of get an idea how this was going to go. And so I listened to Chris's, right? And I just wanted to call out in Chris's episode where he talks about Haiti. Chris mentioned that he was the first YouTuber to go into Cité Soleil and to work with the gangs there. But just wanted to set the record straight. I was there in 2016 dealing and working and filming with the gangs in Cité Soleil. So Chris, I just wanted to start out to set the record straight. All love. Nothing but love.
I think so. I agree. I did see your video that you were there, but I think what he meant is that he was the first since the regime change with barbecue. I think that's what he meant.
Got it. Okay.
Can't defend him saying that, but I think that's what he meant, because I think it's been a place that others have been to, but it's the first one since it's been as fucked up as it is now.
Yeah, it's
pretty wild. What was your time in Haiti there? How was that?
Yeah, it was. Haiti's an amazing country. So I was there in, I think it was 2016, and my friend and I were there filming in Cité Soleil, and to go in there, we had to get permission and work with the gangs. And so it was really interesting because I had never been in gang territory like that before. I think at the time the UN classified it as the most dangerous city in the Western Hemisphere, something like that. And it was the contrast there is striking between the abject poverty that you find in Cité Soleil specifically, but also the joy and the love from the locals there. It's really amazing. We were filming with an organization called the Sané Foundation. Sané, he's a former U.S. National soccer player, and he started this organization there to help kids, and expose them to soccer and you kind of express themselves and provide support there through the love of soccer. And so that's what we're there filming with. But just to go in there and film with that organization, we had to get permission from these gangs.
It's I'm sure as a YouTuber, a person who's, I think, trying to document, stories from around the world, like Haiti, gangland like that, like, oof, it's tough to beat that. Like that must be the buttholes puckered there. Like,
yeah, I'll touch on some of the other stories that I have, but that was pretty high up there as far as sketchiness in Cité Soleil. But I think one thing I try to do with my videos is I think there's also a fine line between showing reality and sensationalizing. And one thing I've always tried to really try and stray away from is any kind of sensationalizing videos or places or communities, for clicks or views or something like that. So, trying to capture that story and do justice to the Haitian people and to this organization while not sugarcoating it. It's hard sometimes, for sure.
And dodging sedition charges.
As well. Thankfully, I haven't been exposed to those. Freedom is a must. Let Chris go.
Yeah, so Chris must list. I guess just to end on that, he is I think stuck in the country till August for his next court date. So, I guess best of luck, Chris.
Yeah.
Ricky, listen, I want to. I know you said that your story's a bit long. I want to just touch on another subject before we move on. Yemen. Not a lot of people go to Yemen.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I'm fascinated with Yemen. I did watch your videos. You showed it was a historic village or something like that by the water. It looked insane.
Yeah.
It looked like like beautiful beach, turquoise water, like insane.
Yeah.
What was your time in Yemen like?
I was in Yemen for just 2 days. It was, not enough. It's been a dream of mine to see the old city in Sana'a for years, and Socotra, that wouldn't do it for me. See where I was in the east and Half, didn't do it. Didn't scratch that itch. I still can't wait to one day, hopefully, visit the old city of Sana'a. But I spent a couple days, just those few days there in Half was the name of this historic village. And it was interesting because it was during Ramadan. So during the day, there's no one out. And to get into the country, I guess that's probably the more interesting part of it was how I got there. So I flew from Muscat to Salalah. And then from there, I found a fixer.
In Oman.
In Oman, exactly. Yeah. And I found a fixer based out of Salalah that would take me to the border and would grease some palms at the border, claimed to know or be related to someone at the border crossing on the Yemen side. He said that he had family just north of there in Yemen, so he had some connections, was able to do that. And during this time, I don't know if it's still the same way, but you had to get an NOC, a non-objection clause, I forget the name, from the U.S. State Department. I think it's the NOC. Basically, saying because you can't get visas to go there, and you have to get essentially permission, right, at the time at least, from the U.S. State Department to go in there because it's an active conflict zone and it's at war. The country's at war, rather. And so, so I went there and just paid this guy to try to get me across. We crossed the border on the Oman side, and then got there to the Yemen side. And it was one of the times I was probably most nervous because I'm not doing this officially. Few people know where I'm at. I met this guy through a friend of a friend. He's a fixer. He turned out to be an awesome guy. But those were the longest, probably 30 minutes of my life sitting at the Yemen border waiting to cross in. This was also the time that cholera was rampant in the country. There's like a big cholera outbreak, and of course the conflict was going on. Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula was there. The Islamic State. It was all happening at the same time. So it was this crazy cocktail of conflict going on. Got through the border and spent the day in Half. Just a beautiful, beautiful side of Yemen that we never see. All the stuff that I just mentioned. That's what we always see in Yemen. We see the Houthis and we see the conflict, but we never see this like pristine, beautiful side of the country. And I didn't know that existed. I had my master's degree in international affairs and never heard about this side of Yemen. You could put up resorts there, a Four Seasons. It would be a top tourist destination, around the world.
Yes, like a golf course or something.
No one knows about it. I got to spend some time there, and it was just it's a beautiful, beautiful country, and people are amazing. Hospitality is incredible. Can't wait to go back. Sure.
Is it still fucked up now? Like, I know there was still a conflict, but is it still?
Especially now the Houthis are actively sending missiles and launching missiles towards the Gulf of Aden and attacking military vessels and things like that. So it's not a very safe place to be right now.
So pause on travels to Yemen.
So even more the reason for me to go back, right? That's
sounds like viral. Let's do Q&A.
Q&A.
So Ricky, first question: hot or cold?
Definitely hot. Floridian.
Oh, I forgot to talk about this, but do you follow hockey? Canadian?
I don't follow hockey, no, but I would bandwagon support the team if they were winning.
Yeah. So you guys are one win away from winning the Stanley Cup.
I did hear about that actually. I think everyone in Florida knows about that. Yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah, go Panthers.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Beach or mountains?
Beach or mountains? Definitely beach. I'm from Florida for sure. Beach all day.
Bus or train?
Always train. Always.
Cats or dogs?
Definitely dogs. Can't stand cats. Sorry to cat lovers out there, but I hate them.
Hell yeah. Top or bottom bunk?
I listened to other responses on this question. I would say top bunk.
Private.
Yeah, exactly. Top bunk sounds more fun, right? Can I tell a quick anecdote during this Q&A?
Yes, of course.
Okay, awesome. So I took I think it was a 16-hour train from Bucharest to Chisinau. Yeah, from Bucharest to Chisinau, Moldova, and it's like an old Soviet train. They have to like lift up the train, like physically lift it up, and then put it on the old Soviet tracks when you go into Moldova. It's pretty gnarly, and and so you wake up at like 3 a.m. to that happening. Anyways, I had to sleep on the top bunk for 16 hours. Actually, I'm going to change my answer because just remembering this story, bottom bunk for sure, because it's like 20 degrees hotter on the top bunk. So bottom bunk, check out that train if you can. It's a journey for sure.
It's just a fucking forklift that just
literally they lifted up the train. It was just like a forklift. Yeah, some dude.
It's like 20 of Moldova's strongest men just lifting the train.
Yeah, it was an experience for sure.
If you could have a beer with one person from history, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
My initial response would be Bob Marley, because not just, in my opinion, one of the greatest, if not the greatest musicians of all time, but also, a freedom fighter, activist, what he stood for, the messages that he had. That was my initial response, but Bourdain would be really, really high up there.
Yeah. Bourdain's a solid answer as well. It's been said before. I think I said that one too. That's a solid answer. Bob Marley. Yeah, I think with Bourdain, I think I'd rather have a meal with Bourdain and have a drink with Bob Marley. Or other substance. Well, yeah, exactly. I was saying, he didn't drink alcohol, I'm pretty sure. So there you go. Yeah. What is the weirdest food you've eaten abroad? Weirdest food? So I ate some termites off of a tree in Belize. Hell yeah. Which was it was minty. Yeah, it was actually not bad.
I ate camel. Camel's pretty common in the Horn of Africa. Camel hump, not my favorite, but yeah, camel hump. I've eaten a bunch of insects abroad. Ate goat testicles in Kurdistan.
Yeah.
Rectum, all that stuff. Yeah,
It's nice to get a meal and also get pink eye.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It works the wrong way. You're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Couldn't touch my face for days. Yeah. That's probably
What's something you never travel without?
A pen. And I know that sounds probably pretty silly, but how many times have you all listening to this been at like customs immigration or like passport control, and you had to ask someone else for a pen, or you couldn't find a pen to fill out the little paper? Yeah, I kick myself whenever I forget a pen. So a pen is my answer.
What is your favorite world attraction?
Favorite world attraction? Damn, I didn't hear this in the other Q&As.
It's supposed to catch you off guard.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. You caught me off guard with the Bahia jersey, by the way. I like that. Talking about
Bahia.
As long as it's not Palmeiras, we're good, right? No, I think tourist is like a tourist attraction. Yeah.
Yeah, any tourist attraction. Maybe I should change it to. I stump people with this all the time. I think tourist attraction should be the world tourist attraction. Let's change it to that.
Okay. I mean, the pyramids of Giza are insane. I've seen Chichen Itza. I've seen Teotihuacan in Mexico. I've seen a lot of the world ancient wonders, but I don't know if anything compares to those pyramids of Giza. They're pretty insane.
Good answer. Which country has the best cuisine?
Yeah, so this is a great question. The best cuisine is either Japan. It's probably Japan, but Italy and Lebanon are right up there. Maybe I'm biased because I lived in both, but I think Japan is probably the best as far as cuisine. Korea's up there too, but yeah, it's a hard one. It's a really hard one. I think Japan.
Nice. What is your biggest travel pet peeve?
Travel pet peeve. I get pretty annoyed when I don't know people. I thought about this answer as well a little bit, but I couldn't really figure out what a pet peeve of mine was that stood out. But I think people are just annoying as hell in airports, and like especially going through security, right? Like TSA or going through any kind of security, you can tell who's traveled, who hasn't traveled. God bless them. They're out there getting out there, and they're traveling and seeing the world. But a huge pain in the ass when someone's like fumbling around and they're slowing up the line. And you've got to catch a connecting flight to Beijing, and that's probably my biggest pet peeve is when people just don't know the.
Yeah, I will say I found that the U.S.'s security maybe a lot more. Sorry, more demanding than most others in the world, right? Like laptop, shoes off, like belt, like you know what I mean. Like obviously you have to take your belt off, but like
everything.
We were like in Houston, we were getting yelled at. We're like, whoa, like dude, chill. It's like 5 a.m. Relax.
Yeah, they're constantly screaming at people. They if you're you're getting strip search and all that type of stuff with TSA in the U.S.
God bless. Tell me your best travel hack.
Yeah, I don't really have a travel hack.
Well, how about this? What's your best tip to learn a language?
That's a good one too. Well, of travel hack, I was going to say something pretty lame actually, but and probably pretty obvious. But if you're ever in a line waiting to get on a plane, let's say you gotta claim your space because you got a big bag or whatever the hell your excuse is. If you're trying to get on a plane, you can always join the group ahead of you. They never stop you if you join the group ahead of you. You're in sections to get on a plane, right? So if you're like A, B, C, and D, like if you're C and they call B, you could always get on with B. Like they will never stop you. So I do that regularly.
It's good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've never been stopped getting in with the group ahead of me. So I use that regularly. For learning a language, I highly recommend. Can I plug an app here? I highly recommend italki. I think Duolingo, all those other ones where you're sitting in your phone. One of the reasons why I love languages is because I can get out in the world and I can use it. right? I can talk with people in this country and that country. So it's an organic thing that you want to learn and you want to start using right away. So italki connects you with tutors to be able to practice. So that's what I would recommend.
Okay, so it's an app that you would like speak to a human?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you set up like private tutors, like one-on-one tutors, and you can have professional tutors. You can have just like language conversation. I use it for French, Korean, Italian, Arabic.
Cool. Average cost typically for like a lesson?
Yeah, so it ranges from you can pay, I think the lowest is like $6-7 an hour to like $100 an hour. You can get a professional teacher, or you can just get someone. I have a Korean tutor or a Farsi tutor who lives in Isfahan. So I pay $10 an hour or something like that, and I just have conversation in Farsi with her.
Cool.
So, and it connects you with people around the world. So
that's a good one, man. Thanks. That's a good tip.
Yeah.
What's the most underrated country?
Yeah, I actually, Phil, I want to ask you: do you think Lebanon is considered an underrated country?
Sure, I think so. I don't think it's a very I think a lot of people know that it exists, but I don't think that a lot of people would consider that a mainstream destination.
Right. Because so in my mind, I've lived and breathed Lebanon for the last couple of years since I've actually lived there and love the culture and the language and the people and all that. So in my mind, it's not considered to be like an overrated country, or not on a lot of people's maps, right? So I would say Lebanon. My initial response was actually going to be Albania. I spent
I like that too.
Yeah, I spent a couple of weeks in Albania, and man, people are amazing. The coast is beautiful, great hiking, good food. Yeah, Albania, and then certainly Lebanon.
Dollar goes so far.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another advantage there too.
I feel like the Taken series took a shot at Albania because all the bad guys were from Albania, and I remember we were considering going to Albania, and I remember people like, oh, like the bad guys in Taken.
Aren't all the bad guys and like all the diehards, aren't they all Albanian?
Oh yeah, all Albanian.
I'm pretty sure they're all pretty sure they're all Albanian.
Bad guys in War Dogs as well, Albanian.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. I never thought about that. Yeah, the first 24 hours I was in Albania, I had my backpack on the front, my backpack on the back, and I'm skating through the streets of Tirana at night, and I'm vlogging, and I'm filming myself, talking to the vlog, and I was going fast as hell, skating through these streets, trying to find my Airbnb, and I hit a huge ass pothole. And I went flying, and I chucked my camera, my vlogging camera, like my Sony, and I thought my vlogging days were going to be over. So that's like a $2,000 setup, And actually, it was fine, but yeah, I ate complete shit first 24 hours when I was in Albania. So you should visit.
Fuck. I guess just closing thing on Albania. It's like, please keep making movies about the bad guys being from Albania, because that will keep the prices low.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Where's somewhere you'd never go back?
Yeah. Does this have to be a country, or can this be a city or anywhere?
Could be anywhere.
I spent 24 hours in Ciudad del Este in Paraguay and didn't love it. I'd love to go back to Asunción and go back to Paraguay, but excuse me, of all the places, cities that I spent time. Granted, I was only there for 24 hours, but I did not love Ciudad del Este. It's a border town. There's a lot of Brazilians go there to buy cheap goods. It's kind of touristy.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah,
was not a fan. So,
dude, to be honest with you, I thought you were going to say Disney World.
Yeah, actually, Disney. I don't mind Disney. Do you know actually a city, and this is an unpopular opinion, but what city I hate, I absolutely detest, is Las Vegas. I can't stand Las Vegas.
Right there with you, dude. I paid $18 for $18 US for Bud Light. I was like, "Are you fucking serious? A bottle of Bud Light?"
It's insane. In my last, I've been to Las Vegas twice. In my last time I was in Las Vegas, I got caught up in an active shooter incident in one of the casinos, and so
what?
Maybe that's I don't know if that's a story for another podcast, but it was pretty.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Maybe we talk about that in the debrief at the end.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Where did you experience the least friendly locals?
Yeah, I lived in Buenos Aires. I love Buenos Aires. I love love Argentina, but when I was living there, I think that was when I experienced and of course some of my best friends are from there. Some of the best people that I know are from there as well. But I'd say that of all the countries out of the 87 that I've been to right now, I would say Argentina is where I experienced the most shade from towards Americans, at least. Several times it was I'm just the shanky, the ignorant Yankee, and yeah,
Who can only speak English and broken
unfortunately,
Spanish.
I was speaking Castellano with them. You know, I literally had a conversation with a girl. And again, some of my best friends are from there, but I had a conversation in Buenos Aires with a girl, and we're talking about Buenos Aires, and she was like, "Oh, how do you like Argentina?" And I was like, I love Argentina. It's amazing. Buenos Aires is great. Have you been to the U.S.? No, I don't really want to go. Americans are ignorant and stupid. And I'm like, I am speaking Castellano in your country as an American. Like I'm pretty sure that defeats everything. It's the antithesis of what you just said. So.
Listen, Ricky, I'll say this for Americans. I've met some of the best people while traveling and some of the worst.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you get caught up. You were obviously one of the best speaking the local language, dude. But there's just another portion of Americans, which, you live amongst them, you know them,
Yep.
that bring the great ones down. And that's what you're getting caught in.
Yeah, for sure. The ugly American stereotype is a stereotype for a reason, for sure.
Unfortunately, but dude, it's really I honestly love meeting an American abroad, especially like when you've been living somewhere for a while and then you're like, dude, how about the fucking Patriots last weekend, man? Like, woo, beat the Dolphins.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny that having that connection when you're abroad with Americans. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, yeah, definitely had some good football games at like ungodly times. Watching games at the bar but at ungodly times with Americans, so awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually watched a Thursday night game in Brazil, in Sao Paulo.
Really?
Yeah, I forget the name of the street. Sao Paulo it's a big ass city, but there's not really like any party areas. You know what I mean? Like not really like a downtown where people go, like Rio would, like, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And there's a street, I forget the name. I think it's like Magdalena or something like that, or
Yeah.
Madalena.
Vila Magdalena. Yeah.
There you go. We were driving in a taxi, and I saw the Bears on the TV. I was like, "Stop! We need to go watch the Bears."
I guess I guess I lived in São Paulo for a bit, and I guess if you're gonna find American football there, that's where you find it. You probably find it in Vila Magdalena. Yeah. Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
we got some
so
Bud
rare.
Light Platinums, and it was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's
Where were you the most scared?
I was the most scared either in Lebanon during the story that I'm about to tell, or probably in Afghanistan, in northern Afghanistan. I was in Afghanistan about 90 days before the Taliban took over the country. So the timing was perfect or not. However, it was a pretty there was a lot of a turbulent time for the country. And yeah, long story short, I ended up almost running into a Taliban checkpoint. I was about maybe 20 kilometers away from a newly established Taliban checkpoint. They had just taken over an Afghan military installation. This was when the U.S. troops were leaving the country. They just took over the military installation, and I was getting notifications on my phone that this had happened. And the one road that we were driving on, this highway in northern Afghanistan, went straight to where that military installation was, which means the Taliban had also taken over the checkpoints as well. And we were headed straight there. Thankfully, at the last second, my fixer turned off the road and we headed south to a city called Samangan. So we did not hit that checkpoint, but I was pretty nervous then.
Yeah, Afghanistan. I mean, dude, props to you for being American and wanting to go to Afghanistan. I think I've had a number of people come on and talk about their experiences in Afghanistan. I don't think there's any Americans I've had on that have been to Afghanistan.
Oh, really? I thought I hadn't.
No, I've had one.
Okay.
Small brain American.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Afghanistan's an amazing, amazing country. The culture, the people, the food, beautiful country. And I can't wait to go back. I'll go back even with this Taliban regime. There's certain places people can't keep me. So,
Was it difficult for you there as an American?
um, no, actually, it wasn't. So I got set up with a fixer who I was kind of filming the whole time I was there, but didn't really have a story, and my story came afterwards. The guy that I was with happened to be a photographer, and he I don't know if you saw, Phil, if you saw that famous photo of the U.S. military cargo ship, cargo plane with all the Afghans on the inside of it when they were fleeing Kabul.
They're all running, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a photo inside the plane that a famous photographer took, and that was my friend that I was with the whole time. So I ended up doing a video kind of about his story, how he had to flee Afghanistan, and showed some shots from when I was there. And yeah, it was a crazy time.
I missed that one. I'll have to go check that out. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I was those last like 48 hours, I was on the phone with him and other friends in Kabul, like trying to get them on flight manifests, trying to get them out of the country, just because that it was a crazy time. Yeah, let me know what you think about that. It was it's a pretty miraculous story of him escaping the Taliban.
Yeah, fuck, it's pretty wild. What is your favorite cocktail?
I would say a caipirinha do Brasil.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I just found some cachaça actually 2 weeks ago. I can't get some locally here, but if I kind of go to a bit more of obscure places in larger centers,
yeah,
can find the cachaça.
But I imagine you've had caipirinhas in Brazil, right?
Dude, I'll tell you a story. So I had a pretty wild Brazilian experience. So I went to go meet my buddy who lived there. His wife's from there as well. So we did São Paulo, we did Minas Gerais, so we did Belo Horizonte, we did Arrial de Juda, we did Bahia, like Salvador.
Yeah.
And at the end of our trip, man, we had so much crazy shit that had happened. A couple near death experiences. And we're like, man, we should get a tattoo. Like, we should get a tattoo to just commemorate this trip. You know what I mean? We're just on the beach in Salvador, and it's this beautiful, like, historic area. And sign from the gods, man. We hit the corner from the beach, and there's a tattoo shop. So we go in, and we just, like, fuck, what do we get? And he's like, oh, we should maybe get a capri. And I was like, what if we got the word cachaça on our legs? That would be funny. So we got cachaça tattooed on our legs.
Phil, I think you got to prove it, man. I don't know. I think I got.
I've proved it before. I don't know if I can.
That's amazing. Wait, how many of you guys got that?
What's that?
Was it the whole group that got that?
No, it was just me and my buddy. It was both our first tattoos, and it just, like, we almost got stabbed for a McDonald's. Like, I had a cop who fucking, or an army dude who, I guess, sexually assaulted me while I had a pistol on him.
I heard that in one of your other podcasts.
Yeah. So Brazil was like some of the wildest shit that's happened, and we just needed to commemorate, just be like, hey, we survived.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah. Capri has a great drink, and I look forward to them in the summer for sure. Where did you find your most expensive pint?
Most expensive.
I used to be cheapest pint, but it's just everybody was saying Vietnam, so I had to change the question.
UK somewhere. I don't drink a lot, but I'd say probably UK, just because what can compete with the pound?
Fair enough.
Maybe Belfast, Edinburgh, maybe London.
Fair enough. All right, we've teased this enough. I think we should get to the story.
Story time.
I just want to preface this story with a couple things. So I've told the story to friends and family, and I was living in Lebanon at the time, and again, wanted to preface this with I did my master's degree in international affairs. I studied, Lebanese politics. I speak Lebanese Arabic. I had already lived in Lebanon before. So this was my second time living in Lebanon. And again, I was aware of all the nuances in this country, religiously, politically, all of it. So the point is that I wasn't just some dipshit tourist. Can I curse?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome, love it. Yeah, so I wasn't just some idiot tourist, right? So with that, I was working on a project on my YouTube channel, and I was daily vlogging my life. And I was daily vlogging my life in 8 countries for 3 months at a time. And I was learning the language there in those countries. And I was filming my day every single day. So I spent a bunch of time in Brazil filming every single day a daily vlog. And then I went to Lebanon to do this as part of this program. And so my second time living in Lebanon, I'm filming my day to day every day. And so, if you're a YouTuber or if you've ever tried daily vlogging, it's extremely difficult because you're constantly looking for content that's new and exciting. And, so I'm, outsourcing, talking to my brother, any kind of ideas for Lebanon. My brother's a big surfer. So my brother says, well, I found this CNN article, Lebanon, the surf mecca of the Mediterranean. I'm like, great. I'm going to go find this town and I'm going to find a whole bunch of surfers and surf shops. And maybe I'll stay there a couple days with them and I'll surf with them and get film my daily vlogs. And it's great, content filler. So I posted that vlog, on that day. And then the next day I went to this town. So keep in mind that video is on YouTube, that everyone that is following me knows that I'm going to this town. And the town is called Gia, and it's like 20 minutes south of Beirut. And so I walked to the bus station to get one of these public buses 20 minutes south of the city. And I asked the one of the cops, where's the bus to Gia? And the guy asked me why. And I didn't really think anything of it at the time. But when he asked me that, I thought, well, it's kind of weird. And I told him, I'm making a video there, and I'm just visiting. He's like, all right, it's this way. But I thought that was weird. So I find the bus and I get on it, and we drive 20 minutes south. And the bus takes you, it's not like a bus where there's particular stops. You just let the driver know, and he lets you off on the side of the highway. So I've got my camera set up, and I'm walking, and I'm wearing. This is important, these details. I'm wearing pink board shorts, and I'm wearing a Paris Saint-Germain t-shirt and a backwards hat with a reggae music group on it, right? So I look like a tourist and a half. Yeah, I look like a tourist and a half.
You're like a rob me sign.
Yeah, I don't. Well, maybe I was going to say I don't look like a spy. Maybe I do. Maybe that's what spies wear. I don't know. So I get off the bus, and I'm walking down into this town called Gia. And I had lived in Beirut, and I'd never heard of this town before. And so as I'm walking down through this town, trying to find surf shops, surfers, and I see a whole bunch of Hezbollah posters, but they're all old and beat up Hezbollah posters, and like holes in it, and you can barely, they're hardly intelligible. You can't really make them out. But I noticed they had the Hezbollah logo, and they're yellow, and I was like, okay.
And just pause, just for those who don't know, what is Hezbollah?
So Hezbollah is a designated foreign terrorist organization that is classified by the U.S. Government, right? Within Lebanon, they are also a social institution, right? So they pay people welfare and feed communities, and it's not just like ISIS, right? It's not just like Al Qaeda. It's a very kind of gray area within Lebanon, right? Within Lebanon, it's not just that. They've got a military wing that operates in Syria. And so they are classified as a terrorist organization by the U.S., though. So something to keep in mind. So as I'm walking through, I'm seeing these old beat up posters with holes in it, and then there's also this big, beautiful church in Lebanon. And my understanding in Lebanon, having lived there and loving this country and loving the people there, is that generally, if it's kind of a mixed neighborhood, Christian and Shia, or Sunni, or Druze, whatever, if it's a mixed community, it's generally fine to walk around. Usually within Lebanon or Beirut, You need to be careful with the camera when you're walking around Shia neighborhoods, in particular ones that have any kind of Hezbollah, propaganda or anything like that, because of obviously the history, right, of Hezbollah and Israel and the U.S. All that. I get it. So I'm walking around and I see these posters, but I also see big beautiful church, and so I'm thinking, well, maybe it's a mixed neighborhood. There's Christians and Shias and Sunnis. It's fine. So I'm carrying my vlogging camera and I'm walking around this town for hours and hours and hours. And there's no surfers. There's no surf shop. There's no cafe. I don't have Wi-Fi. There's nothing in this town. It's just a tiny little coastal village, right? And so after like 4 or 5 hours there, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, talking to the vlog, and I'm like, well, I guess this is all bullshit because there's no surfers here. So it's the end of this vlog. Sorry guys, it was boring as hell. And so I'm setting the camera down on the sidewalk and I'm sitting on the bench there. And as I'm telling this story, there are 2 dudes across the street that are watching me film this. And I'm used to attention because, I'm carrying this big camera, camera set up, and it's normal, but I was getting extra attention from these dudes. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to get out of here. I'm looking at the camera and I'm like, sorry guys, vlog's done, nothing here. Wrap it up, pick up my camera and start walking down this road. There are no cars that are going up and down this road. It's like 6 o'clock in the evening and no one's here. So I'm trying to find a taxi to take me back up to the highway. And as I'm doing that, I notice that a car is coming up from behind me. And as it's coming up from behind me, it's starting to go really slow. And I noticed the guys that were inside, the 2 guys from the mechanic shop or some kind of shop, looking at me really up and down really slow. And so they passed me. And so I crossed the road, and there's like a concrete median. So I crossed the road and started walking the opposite way. They do a U-turn and start coming up from behind me. And I noticed this, so I crossed the road again. They do a U-turn. So I crossed the road again. We literally play by cat and mouse like this. Like, I'm not kidding, like 6 or 7 times. And so I'm obviously not an idiot, so I know what's happening right now. They want to talk to me or something. So a taxi comes up, and I stop the taxi and I say, hey, I'm going to the highway. I live in Beirut. I want to go home. So guys, if I can get in, I get in the front seat. And as soon as we start to drive off, the car pulls up behind us, cuts up my taxi off. And the guy in the passenger seat gets up and walks over to my window, puts his hands on the windowsill and says, where are you from? What language do you speak? And I'm looking at the taxi.
In English?
No, in Arabic. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the taxi driver. I'm like, who the hell is this asshole? I don't know this guy. And the taxi driver's looking at him like, who the hell are you? What is this? Plain clothes. The guy's in plain clothes, and the guy's in a regular car, not a police car. And so I'm looking like, I don't know this dude. I'm not talking to this guy. And the guy says, no, it's fine. It's just a security, question for security. I'm talking to the taxi driver. Like, I'm not talking to this guy. I don't know him. I'm just trying to go home. So, we're going back and forth. And finally I tell the guy, I say, listen, I'm a YouTuber. I live in Beirut. If there's a security issue, you can get in the back of my taxi and we'll talk on the way to the highway or something like that. But I'm not going I'm not talking to you. So he gets
not available for interviews, guys. Not available.
Yeah, exactly.
Speak to my agent, please.
So he gets in the taxi, which was the biggest mistake, right? As soon as we start driving away, he taps the guy on the shoulder. He says, listen, you have to take a right here. So instead of going left to the highway, we turn right and we start driving deeper into this town. So, when we're driving we're in the taxi. The guy asks me, where are you from? And I say, I'm from the U.S. He says, you're from the U.S., huh? Yep, just a YouTuber, dude. So he got really interested in that. And we we drive all the way down to this town and we park outside of this big mosque, big, beautiful Shia mosque. And so we get out of the car, and when we get out of the car, he and his comrades or whomever were already there. There's a bunch of guys there waiting for me. He gets out of the car, opens the door, and grabs me by the arm and pulls me out. And I'm looking at the taxi driver like, what the hell is going on? The taxi driver's looking at him like, what the hell's going on? So he's like,
Did you pay the taxi?
No. He sticks around.
You brought me to the wrong place.
Yeah, he sticks around for a while. The taxi driver's trying to calm me down. He's like, no, you're welcome here in Lebanon. It's totally fine. I'm not going to leave. I'm here with you. So the guy, poor guy, didn't know what he was getting into. So taxi driver gets out. He's just hanging out. They take my camera, my wallet, my cell phone. They take everything. Again, all dudes in plain clothes. and they walk me over to two plastic chairs outside of this mosque. And I just want to say, for the record, I don't know who these guys are with, but there are some hints, some things that I'll talk about that point to maybe who these guys are with, who they support, who they're affiliated with. I don't know. I'm just saying from my perspective what happened. So I'm sitting down in this chair, and they take all of my camera, all my stuff, cell phone, everything. And after like an hour, the taxi driver, they pay him, and he finally leaves. So that was like my last hope. So I'm sitting there, and one by one, half the group of these guys were really nice guys, trying to calm me down. Man, I was shaking because I'm not an idiot, and I have an understanding about what's transpiring. And half of them were trying to calm me down and talk to me about, Lebanon, and, they're showing me pictures of their travels, and, vice versa. And then the other half, they would leave, and the other half, a guy would come up and get in my face, and he would scream at me, where are you from?
He would hit you in the face?
No, I was never physically assaulted. I was, thankfully. But they would get up into my face,
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, like a good cop, bad cop. And then he would get in my face like this close, and he would say, where are you from? Like, what are you doing here? How do you know about this place? All just interrogating me, screaming at me, in my face. And I would be like, dude, I'm just a YouTuber, man. I don't know. I'm wearing pink board shorts and a backwards hat. What do you think that I'm doing here? And it went like that, back and forth for, I'd say, the next 5 hours. So maybe about 4 hours. So it's about 8 or 9 at night right now. And it's getting dark, if it's not dark already. So, I tell the guy, I've been there for a while. I tell the guy, listen, I've been here for 8 hours. I don't know how many hours I can go to the bathroom. So the guy walks me into the mosque, and there's a huge banner, a huge poster of the leader of Hezbollah. And so when I see that, my heart just stopped. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know who these guys are. I don't know who they're with. I don't know any of that, but there's a huge banner there. So I'm like, okay,
they're fans.
We'll leave it at that. That's all I'm going to say. So I go to the bathroom, the bathroom in the mosque, and I walk back out, and I sit back down, and my brain is starting to go into overdrive, and I'm thinking, man, if I'm still here when it's dark, they're going to kill me. I'm dead if it's still dark. My girlfriend doesn't know where I'm at. My family doesn't know where I'm at. The only people that know where I'm at are my 20,000 YouTube subscribers that I posted in the video the day before. So these morons should know that, oh, he is just a YouTuber because he said he's going to go to GA and film surfers, And so, that's what I thought, but no one knew where I was at. So it's starting to get dark, and I'm thinking they're going to put a bullet in my head if I'm still here when it's dark. So I'm thinking they have all my stuff. They have my cell phone, my camera, my wallet, my everything. They don't have my passport. And so I'm sitting in my chair, and I'm thinking I'm about to just get up and book it out of this town and try to run as fast as I can to the highway to try to catch a taxi. And right as I'm literally about to get up and start booking it out of this town, a blacked out 4-door truck backs up to where I'm at, and 4 dudes with AK-47s, bulletproof vests, and balaclavas step out of the truck. And I see this, and the guy hands the guy in the passenger seat all of my stuff and says, "Ricky, you're going with them." And so my heart just stops. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So
Holy fuck.
Guy grabs me by the arm and takes me into the back of the truck, and I'm sitting in the back of the truck between these 2 dudes with AK-47s, and we start driving out of this town. And so then I start thinking, right, okay, one of two things. We're either going to start driving up into the mountains, and they're going to shoot me in the head, and no one's ever going to find me, or maybe we'll turn left and start heading back to the city, and they'll drop me off in the middle of the city, and it's a big misunderstanding, something like that. So we start driving out, and we turn left, headed back to Beirut. So as we're doing that, I'm thinking, oh, thank God. And now I'm thinking, okay, so there's another crossroad that we're at. So we're either going to pull into this neighborhood called Dahieh, which is the Hezbollah-controlled suburb of the city, or we're going to keep going straight, and we're going to drive into downtown, and they'll drop me off there. And so I'm just praying we don't turn into Dahieh, or at least during the time what I thought was Dahieh. I've never been to this. Yeah.
Question: when you're in the car, are you like are you restrained? Are you just in the back seat with these guys with the guns? Like what's the situation?
Yeah, I'm not restrained, no handcuffs, but no need for handcuffs because I'm surrounded by three AK-47s.
Guns, yeah, fair enough. Stupid question, my
Yeah,
bad. First time, I don't know.
wasn't actually restrained. So I'm thinking, again, I've never been to this neighborhood of Beirut. There's no reason to. I don't do mess around or anything like that. I'm just a vlogger there, right? Filming my life in Lebanon. And so what I think is the entrance to Dahieh, to this Hezbollah-controlled Beirut of suburb of Beirut. And so we, instead of going straight, we start to pull off into this neighborhood. And when we're driving into this neighborhood, there is a huge Lebanese military checkpoint. And so I'm thinking, all right, I've got only until we get to this checkpoint to try to get out of here. Try to let the soldiers like see me, or like let them know that I'm with these guys. They're taking me into this neighborhood. And so I'm thinking, right, so it's a huge checkpoint. We're driving through barriers, and I'm thinking, right, I have three options really. I can either grab this guy's AK-47 and fire into the floorboard and cause an international incident, or I can like deck this guy in the face and try to dive out that little square in the back of the truck. Or whenever we pull up next to a soldier, I can try to make eye contact and say like, help me, right? So I figure I'm not going to grab this guy's rifle. So we pull up to the first guy, and he rolls on the window, and this Lebanese soldier is looking in and sees me with my pink board shorts and my backwards hat. And he's like, "Are you good to go?" And I'm like, "Help me," like mouthing it, like, "Help me." Nothing, just nothing. So we go to like the next barrier, and I'm thinking, good God, these guys are going to let this group of armed men take me into this neighborhood, take an American into Dahieh. That's what I'm thinking, right? And so I tell the driver, I'm like, "Listen, man, I got to take a piss right now. You got to let me out of the truck. I'm gonna piss in your truck if you don't let me out." So the guy's like, "Really? We're in the middle of a checkpoint. Are we really gonna stop right now?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm gonna go right now if you don't let me out." So the guys, they stop in the middle of the checkpoint, and they ask the Lebanese soldier, "Can this foreigner use your bathroom?" So the guy gets out, takes my other arm, walks me to the porta potty of the Lebanese armed forces, and I'm looking at the soldiers like, "What the hell are you doing? Clearly I'm a tourist. Clearly I'm a foreigner." And just nothing. And so I use the bathroom, and I'm walking back, and there's no reaction from these guys. And I can finally read the back of the bulletproof vest of this guy that I'm with, and it's Jaish Lebanani, Lebanese military. And I can finally read that. And so we get back into the truck, and I ask the guys, I'm like, "Who are you guys?" And the guys, no one's told you? I'm like, "Dude, no one has told me anything. All I know that I was abducted, taken out of a taxi, and interrogated, for 8 hours." And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, we're the Lebanese military, intelligence." And I'm like, "Okay, well at least I can breathe now, for the love of God." So then I'm thinking, like, why are we in this neighborhood again? I don't know if this was Dahieh, but it seemed like Dahieh. So we continue driving on through this checkpoint, and we get to this military installation, and we're going through these barriers and these gates, and we pull into this Lebanese military installation, and they take me out of the truck, and they take me from interrogation room to interrogation room to interrogation room. And I'm taking mug shots. It's upside down, so I can't read what they wrote on my mug shot. And so after like another 4 hours, so it's like midnight now, after another 4 hours in this military installation, these guys have my Google passwords, like my mom's, maiden name, you name it, they've got all this information. They're like looking at my phone, scrolling through all of it. Like, what is your job? I'm a YouTuber. Like, that's not a job, right? What is your job? Way
to cut to the core of me, man. What the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, man, that hurts, And I was like, "Well, what did you do before this?" I am a YouTuber. Before this, I was in grad school. What did you study in grad school? I did my master's in international affairs. What did you focus on? I focused on international security, the international, things like that. Why'd you do that? It was interesting. What were you doing before that? Well, for the love of God, they had no evidence. They thought, I think they thought I was a spy. They thought I was an American spy, an Israeli spy, some kind of spy. I don't know. So it's midnight, and the guy walks into the head of the military intelligence office and says, he's writing down a piece of paper, "What did he do? What's his crime?" The guy said, I don't know. The guy says, you don't know? He's like, say he was filming
Sedition.
something he shouldn't have been. Yeah, sedition, yeah. Say he was, they're like, say, write down he was filming something he shouldn't have been filming. So the guy writes it down. 4 guys with AK-47s walk back into the office, take me by the arm, walk me back to the truck, put me in the back of the truck, and we start hauling ass out of the military installation down the highway towards Beirut at midnight. And so I'm thinking, well, these guys are like hauling ass because have you ever seen the movie Sicario where they're like hauling through, I don't know, is it like Ciudad Juarez or Mexico City somewhere?
Yeah.
And they're going fast so that no one can follow them. And if someone is following them and it stands out, they know, right? So that's all I had playing in my head. Like they're speeding down this highway so they know that no one's following out of this neighborhood. So we drive at midnight. We get back to my Airbnb in Beirut. The guy gets out of the vehicle with me, walks me up to the door of my Airbnb and says, well, now that we know where you live, we'll be in touch. So they leave. I pack up all of my shit in my apartment. I tell my Airbnb host, hey, I'm leaving the country right now. I was supposed to be there for like another couple months. I'm leaving the country right now. And then I text my brother. I'm like, hey, you need to download one of these encrypted apps because both of these, well, I know the military has all the information, but that other group of people that I was with before, whoever they are, they have all my information. So download this app. And I don't have internet between my Airbnb and the airport. And so I'm going to text you when I get to the airport because there's Wi-Fi there. And when you're at Rafik Hariri International, there's like 4 or 5 security checkpoints, like from the outside, all the way up to your gate. So I'm going to text you once I get through every security checkpoint. So, we get through, the security, first security, second security, and then we get to passport control. And I hand this person my passport, the agent my passport. And in Rafik Hariri, when you're going through passport control, there's black plexiglass. So I hand him my passport, the woman scans it, and I can see the reflection on the screen, and it's my passport photo right next to the mugshot that I just took at that military installation. So my heart just dropped. And I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna get arrested again. They're not letting me leave the country. And she hands me back, my passport. I'm texting my brother. I'm like, I'm good. I made it through passport control. And I get to the gate. There's like another security officer. They're there at the gate. Hand my passport. I'm like, my heart's pounding like crazy. Hands it back to me. I step on the plane and I'm in Paris 3 hours later. And so I'm like texting my brother every 10 minutes. And I was in Paris 3 hours later. And that was I made it out good. I'm alive. I'm safe. And actually went back to Lebanon a couple months later and lived there for a couple more months. So yeah, that was probably the
Holy fuck, Ricky.
Yeah.
That's why I fucking do this shit. Hell yeah, dude. That was a fucking baller of a story.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
Thank you for breaking that on this podcast. First time telling that publicly. Holy fuck. You must have been shitting yourself.
Yeah, it was by far the scariest time I've ever experienced traveling.
Holy
easily.
Fuck!
I didn't know what was
Ricky.
happening.
That's why I fucking do this shit.
Again, man, I love Lebanon.
That was
a
fucking
these
baller
people
of a
that I was
story.
with. I don't think they understand. I'll never.
Thank you for
not go back
breaking
to
that on
Lebanon.
this
I'll always go
podcast.
back to
First time
Lebanon.
telling that publicly.
No one can stop me. No one will stop me. I'll always go back 'cause I love it.
Fuck, you must have been
so I texted
shitting
my friend
yourself.
who's from Beirut. I'm like, listen, man, I was supposed to be living in Lebanon for a couple months, like I said, right? I actually went and I lived in Jordan
Ricky.
to keep learning Arabic. And
That's why I fucking do this shit.
My blogs, practice.
Hell yeah, dude.
But I
that was
texting
a
my
fucking
friend, the whole time
baller
there,
of a
I'm
story.
Like, man, I miss Lebanon. Thanks, man. Yeah,
Thank you for breaking that on this podcast. First time telling that publicly.
He's like, listen, man,
Holy
I'm going back to Lebanon.
Fuck,
you can
must
come back.
have
I
been.
have contacts. It's fine. You're safe. If you do come back and someone stops you, just tell them my name or someone I know's name.
Ricky.
And it's totally fine. So I went.
That's why I fucking do this
had the
shit.
greatest time.
Hell
no
yeah,
issues.
dude. That was a
Lebanon
fucking
was,
baller of a
was as
story.
awesome as it always was.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
and so,
thank you for breaking that on this podcast. First time telling that publicly. Holy fuck, you must have been shitting yourself.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, Ricky. That's why I fucking do this shit.
Good, man.
Hell yes, dude. That was a fucking baller of a story.
I've told the story so many times. To friends and family,
Thank you for breaking that on this podcast. First time
telling it publicly.
Holy
I had to edit it
been
just a little
yourself.
bit. It's for the most part, it's not edited. There are a couple details I did have to leave out.
Holy
but
fuck!
For the most part, that was
Ricky.
everything that happened.
That's why, hell yes, dude. That was
I'm glad.
a color of a story.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Thank you for breaking that on this podcast. First time telling that publicly. Holy fuck. You must have been shitting yourself. Holy.
Yeah. For the most part, that was everything that happened. Yeah.
Yeah,
Phil, thank you so much for having me.
Color of a story.
I've really enjoyed being on it.
Yeah,
enjoy
thank
listening
you
to
for
it all the
breaking
time,
that
so.
on this podcast. First time telling
you can
that
find me.
publicly.
I'm going to start.
Holy
I took a little bit of a
fuck,
hiatus
you
on
must
YouTube,
have
but
been
on
shitting
YouTube,
yourself.
it's youtube.com/Ricky Seaman or on Instagram, Ricky.Seaman.
Holy.
Like I said, I took a hiatus from YouTube, but
that was
in about 2 weeks, I'm going to start posting every 2 weeks, new content, new videos, new stories.
dude.
I'm
That was
telling some of these kind of
color of
crazy
a
stories
story.
from traveling and
thanks, man.
filler videos. And
Thank
all
you
that,
for
so
breaking
it's
that
really
on
fun.
this podcast. That publicly. Holy fuck, you must have been shitting yourself. Holy.
Yeah. For the most part, that was everything that happened. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, dude. That was
I'm glad.
a color of a story.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Thank you for breaking that on
Sounds
this
good.
podcast.
Thank you for listening to Two Beers Till Takeoff. Do you want free additional content or just to stay connected with the show? Then give us a follow on our social media platform. That means TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of them. Are you in need of podcast production services, video editing, or anything in between? Then look no further than Strut Sound Productions, the official producer of the Two Beers Till Takeoff podcast. Music produced by Alex Gagne. Check out his work in our show notes. Voiceover done by Viking Leo K. See you next week on Two Beers Till Takeoff.